I hope that you are well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 4 English lesson on adjectives that compare. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. All right. So we are doing our grade 4 lesson and we will be going to aplusstudents.ca, right? Once we have selected aplusstudents.ca, we will then choose the subject of English Language Arts, grade 4, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of adjectives that compare. So our chapter is adjectives that compare. Our subject is English Language Arts. Grade 4. And the lessons that we're going to be focusing on under the chapter of adjectives that compare is to use adjectives to compare, spell adjectives, spell adjectives to compare, and to use adjectives with more and most. All right. So you can use adjectives to compare people. Remember, when it comes to adjectives, right? An adjective, it modifies the noun or tells us about the noun, right? That's adjectives. So when we compare, like when we have adjectives that compare, then we can say that you can use some adjectives to compare people, places, or things, right? So when it comes to adjectives, right, we have comparative adjectives, and then we also have superlative adjectives. Comparative adjectives, right, it compares to people, to places, or to things, right? So we see that adjectives that compare, right? So it's comparative adjectives that compare to people, places, and things, right? Or things. And a comparative adjective, it ends with E are. So if we compare to people, places, or things, it ends in er. And here's an example. It says he is taller than his sister, which means that he is tall, yes. But if we compare him to his sister, he is taller, and we added an er to show that he is taller. So he is taller than her than his sister. And even if we were to turn it around, right? So since he's taller than his sister, we can even say that his sister is shorter than him or she's shorter than him. So shorter, it also ends in er because we are comparing two people, right? Then we have superlative adjectives. Remember, we said we have comparative adjectives, and comparative adjectives, it compares to people, places, or things. And then we have superlative adjectives, and superlative adjectives, it compares more than two people, places, or things. And superlative adjectives, right? We see it compares more than two people, places, or things, and they end in est. Yeah, we made an example and we said that yes, he is tall, but he is taller than his sister, right? But if we compare him to either two or more people, or we compare him to the rest of the class, then we can say he is the tallest person. So he's the tallest person. And remember, if we are comparing, if we are comparing him to more, or we compare someone to more than one person, right? And then we use superlative adjectives, right? And we that ends in est. All right. So when it comes also to adjectives, right, you will also find out during the course that with adjectives, and especially adjectives that compare, right, you get adjectives that compare with one syllable. For example, tall or short. And then you'll get adjectives with more than one syllables, right? And that is where more or most is going to come in. All right. So now we're going to a+students.ca, and here we're going to continue with our adjectives that compare, right? So we're going to the first one that says use adjectives to compare. So we see that you can use adjectives to compare people, places, or things, right? And remember, we are comparing people, places, or things because an adjective, it tells us about a noun, right? It tells us about the noun, it modifies the noun, right? Describes a noun. So which means that adjectives, they compare people, they compare places or things, right? And we see that we have a comparative adjective as well as a superlative adjective. Comparative meaning that we are comparing two people, places, or things, and they end in er. And superlative adjectives, right? All right. So we see that with comparative adjectives, it ends in er because we are comparing two people, places, or things. And we made an example of he is taller than his sister. Or we can say she, who's the sister, is shorter. It also ends in an er than her brother. So can you see, like there's many different ways in which you can even write that specific sentence, as long as you show whatever the topic is about. So yeah, it's comparative adjectives, right? Where we compare two people, places, or things. And short as one syllable, right? Which means that our word ends with an er, or our superlative adjective ends with an est. And with superlative adjectives, we said it compares more than two people, places, or things, and it ends in est, the adjective. All right, so now we're going to complete the sentence with the correct form of the adjective. It says, Mom's turkey gravy is always a little bit than Dad's. Then we have superlative adjectives, right? And we said superlative adjectives, it basically tells us about more, it compares more than two people, places, or things. And they end in E is T. All right, so mom's turkey gravy is always a little bit than dad's, right? And in this case, we will say that mom's turkey is a little bit thicker than dad's. Thicker than dad's. All right, the next one says complete the sentence with the correct form of the adjective. The knight easily won the battle because his sword was than his enemy. His sword was than his enemy. All right. So the knight easily won the battle because his sword was, and we can say his sword was longer than his enemies. And the reason why we say longer and not longest is because it is only the one enemy, right? If this word was more than one, then it would have been enemies. But it is enemies. It's referring to one person with an apostrophe S, right? Referring to that one specific person. All right. The queen in that story is the queen I've ever read about. So we can say the queen in the story is, we can say the meanest queen I've ever read about. Meanest. And the reason why we say meanest with an EST, because they are putting emphasis on I have ever read about. All right. So now we're going to our test, right? Where we're going to use adjectives to compare. When Devin was in hospital, Nurse Alvarado was a lot, do we say kinder than Dr. Kerr? Or she was a lot, or he was a lot kindest than Dr. Kerr? All right, so we can say when Devin was in hospital, Nurse Alvarado was a lot, let's say kinder, because we are basically now comparing Nurse Alvarado to Dr. Kerr, so we're gonna say it's kinder, because kinder ends with an ER because we are comparing two people, whereas kindest you're comparing more than two people. So kinder is correct. Well done. The animal shelter has a, do we say, greater need for dog beds than cat beds? Or the animal shelter has a greatest need for dog beds than cat beds? All right, so we can say the animal shelter has a greater need for dog beds than cat beds. So well done. All right. The knight easily won the battle because his sword was, do we say it was longest than his enemies, or it was longer than his enemies? So we can say that the knight easily won the battle because his sword was longer than his enemies. It's not longest, longer, because we're only comparing him to his enemy. It's one enemy, and there's apostrophe to show we are putting specific emphasis on that enemy. So Kaya sells the, do we say Kaya sells the freshest carrots in the whole city of Lakeside? Or do we say Kaya sells the fresher carrots in the whole city of Lakeside? All right. So we can say Kaya sells the freshest. And we're specifically saying freshest because we are comparing her carrots to the whole of the city of Lakeside, right? It's not just one other person selling it, but it is saying that it is so nice, it is better than everybody else's within the city of Lakeside. All right. So we say freshest. The last one, it says the top kitchen cupboard is, do we say it is fullest than the bottom one, or do we say it is fuller than the bottom one? So the top kitchen cupboard is fullest than the bottom one, or do we say it is fuller than the bottom one? All right. So we can say that the top is fuller than the bottom. All right. So now we're going to spell adjectives that compare. And we say that you can use adjectives to compare people, places, or things, right? And a comparative adjectives compare to people, places, or things, and it ends in er, whereas a superlative adjective compare more than two people, places, or things, and they usually end in est. So for most of our adjectives, right, we say that we add an er to show the comparative adjective and est to show the superlative adjectives. The comparative adjective, it shows that we are either comparing two people, and the superlative is more than two people that is being compared. All right. So now we're going on to a test where we are going to spell adjectives that compare. So we're going to complete the sentence with the correct comparative and superlative adjective. It says the shopping mall was the. Do we say it was the full I've ever seen right before the holidays, or it was the fullest? All right, so we can say the shopping mall was the fullest I've ever seen right before the holidays. All right, so we said fullest is correct. Tucker knows a, do we say a quick way to the bus station than I do, or Tucker knows a quicker way to the bus station than I do? All right. So we're going to complete the sentence using the correct comparative and superlative adjectives. So Tucker knows a quicker way to the bus station than I do. Quicker. All right, so we can say the dog we found at the shelter is younger than our other dog, Rico. So it is younger. All right, the last one. Ellie has the bright pea blue, do we say the brightest blue eyes of all of the girls in the family? Right? So if you already hear them saying all of the girls, all of the boys, the rest of the, then it is brightest. EST. All right. So now we're going to complete the sentence with the correct comparative or superlative adjective. Paul Lantern is the bright or the brightest one in the whole camp group. So we say Paul Lantern is the brightest of one in the whole camp. Brightest. So the baby's pink blanket is much, do we say it is much softer than a white one or softer than a white one? Yeah. So the baby's pink blanket is much softer than the white one. All right, let's go back. So now we're going to use adjectives with more or most. So when it comes to more or most, right, we also still using adjectives to compare, like comparative adjective and superlative adjectives. But now, if a word has more than one syllable, right? So, for example, tall as one syllable. But now, if we use a word like intelligent, right? Intelligent has got more than one syllable, right? Then it means that we need to either use more or most in front of our word. All right. So we're going to put more in front of a specific word, right? If we are showing adjectives that compare, specifically comparative adjectives, right? And we're going to also add most in front of the superlative adjective. So, for example, if there's more than one syllable, we add more to our comparative adjective and most to a superlative adjective. And there we have an example where we say the base is, for example, if we say he is intelligent, then we can say he's intelligent, but she is more intelligent. right? So as much as he's intelligent, she's more intelligent, but we can say, but John is the most intelligent in the class or in the grade. All right. If you look at the one, it says the alligator at the Springdale Zoo is long than the one at the Oak. So here we can say it is longer because than the one at Oak Grove Zoo. All right, so we're going to either add more in front, most, or most by the superlative. So the angelfish, right, is beautiful. So clearly the beautiful has got more than one syllable, right? So the angelfish is beautiful fish in the aquarium at school. So if we say the angelfish is it's beautiful, but in this case, since it is the compared to the fish in the aquarium, we're going to say the angelfish is the most beautiful fish in the aquarium at school. So we say the most beautiful. All right. The father chimpanzee, right, was strong than the mother chimpanzee, or do we say was stronger than the mother chimpanzee? All right, so here we can say that the father chimpanzee was stronger than the mother chimpanzee, stronger. Our dog Dusty has the insistent bark of all the dogs on our block. All right, so we can say our Dusty dog has the insistent bark of all the dogs on our block, right? So do we say it is the most insistent or insistent? So since we're saying all the dogs on our block, we can say he has the most insistent bark. Because remember, as soon once we start saying all the other people compared to all the other houses, compared to all the other people, then you are, it now becomes most. All right, so we can say the new house on our block is the, do we say it is the modern one I've ever seen or the most modern one I've ever seen? So most is correct. Most that I've ever seen. Oh wow, sorry guys, I didn't see that one. All right, let's go to the next one. The animal shelter has a great need for dog beds than cat beds. Do we say it has a great need or greater need? Option one or option two? Number one or number two? Seems like everything is number two, right? So we can say it has a greater need. So well done, and well done for not acknowledging the other answers that you gave. So well done. All right, let's go to the last one. It says Ben's older sister has, do we say neat handwriting than he does? Or do we say neater handwriting than he does? Option one or option two? Neat handwriting than he does or neater handwriting than he does? So Ben's older sister has neat handwriting than he does or neater handwriting than he does? All right, so we can say option one. Ben's older sister has neater handwriting than he does. All right, so that is the end of our lesson on adjectives that compare. We said that we use adjectives to compare people, places, or things. When we compare people, two or more, when we compare two people, then we say that's a comparative adjective and it ends in er. If you compare more than two people, right, it's superlative adjective that ends in est. If our adjective has two or more syllables, right, like for example intelligent, insistent, beautiful, right, then we add most in front of the superlative adjective or more in front of the comparative adjective. All right, so this is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, grade fours, for joining the class, and I really hope that you're going to have a good weekend further. Goodbye.